So
Okay.
Rishi, thank you so much for doing this masterclass for us. I think it's paramount that we open up opportunities to women who are on a career break and tell them what is out there in the job market. We often hear about the importance of getting more women into science, technology, engineering, and we're seeing more and more organizations, encouraging women to consider roles in these fields. But sales is a field with a very low representation of women, and we haven't seen many efforts going towards women to consider roles in sales. In fact, I was reading an article on Forbes, which cites a research on how women outperform men in sales, to drive the bottom line and help companies better empathize and connect with their customers. So I'm hopeful that we'll see an influx of research like this, to shed light on the impact that female sales professionals can make, and that we'll see more programs, being developed to help close the, gender disparity gap in this field. So while developing these programs will help move the needle, we also need to show women why sales is a viable and worthwhile path. And this is what you're going to educate and enlighten for us today. So Rishi, over to you. You can, start, please.
All right. Thanks so much, Shruti. And that was a wonderful background on the topic as well. But before I start, I just wanted to thank you and Jobs for Her for this opportunity again, to allowing me to connect with various participants. I believe they would be across the country. So good morning to everybody, wherever you are. It's very pleasant late October morning in Bangalore. I quite like the weather today and hope we have a wonderful conversation this morning. I'll share my screen and take you through my thoughts today. This is not a very graphical presentation. It's quite texty, but it's just based on my experience of the sales role and my experience of dealing with women as well. So we'll just get started with the introduction. I think I'll just share my screen here. All right, a bit of a background. I am currently uh, heading a company called Anamind, and we are into planning and forecasting. We help companies become better in their planning processes. When I say planning, it's mostly the operations planning. So we work with teams in supply chain, finance, sales, marketing, everybody out there who does their own planning. I won't get into details of our services here, but and we are quite a women heavy organization. So we are at times I joke that we are not equal opportunity company because we have more women than men over here. But that's not by design. It's just on merit, and we just found good women to work with. So just to set the context. What else do I do? I am also a freelance writer with Times Group. I like to teach, and I'm associated with Symbiosis. Of late, the engagement's a bit low because of Anamind. I'm also mentoring students at Great Lakes, apart from being mentored with JFH. I'm also an evaluation panel with the Texas Instruments startup initiative, and enjoyed doing that for last 2 years. And I've been speakers with some of the international planning and forecasting conferences. Some of this is for what I love doing. Some of it is also a sales strategy of my own personal brand. So I'll talk more about that. As a background, I'm a chartered accountant. That's where I began. Certification in forecasting. Did my management program from Calcutta and studied a bit of economics. If any of you are confused on why, where's sales in this and why am I talking about this, is I wanted to clarify with this quote from the author Zig Ziglar, that all of us are in sales, and you, accept it or not, you can't live your life without being a good salesman. If I look back, my sales career started very, very early in life when I sold the idea of getting a bicycle to my dad. Followed by a few years later, another big purchase was a computer, and then getting a job. So I think getting a job itself is a big sales pitch of yourselves, and unless you are a good salesman, you can't really get a good job. And I happen to work with some of the best names in the world. Just to give you an idea, I last worked with Apple, before that with a company called McAfee, and before that with Hewlett Packard. All of them were, whatever products and services they were either number one or number two in everything. So I had to really sell myself well to get into those companies. I realized that today, when I started my own company, and actually I had to sell my own products and services, and I had to really think back and look, can I sell? Yes, else I wouldn't have got that far. So it's just that you're selling the product today. Earlier you were selling yourself. So, if any of you have this thought, especially who are not from the background of so-called salesperson designation, that you're not from sales, I think you should rethink. You may not be doing that in that title role, but definitely you are selling yourself all the time, whether at home or outside of home. So that's a fundamental thing that you need to realize. We all need to improve ourselves as a salesperson all the time to really move forward in life. Um, Having said that, I want to set some of the background. I'm not going to talk about sales as a function fully today. I'm just going to talk about the changes that I see in the sales function today. So this is only the incremental bit. The core function still remains, but the function is changing. So before you think about getting into a titular sales role, you need to also update yourself on how does the function start today, what has changed. So let me take you through some of my observations. It's completely domain knowledge based today. So no matter what you're selling, the in-depth knowledge of the product or a service is extremely important. And the reason being, is not because of the products that are getting much more advanced, which is a fact. The To me, the biggest change that has happened is on the customer front. The customer has changed. Just to give you an example, say earlier, if you went to buy television in the market, for instance, you would decide, okay, I want to buy a television, and let's go and check out what's available. So you go to the store, you ask that I want to buy a TV, and then they take you to the TV section and they show you various brands and they tell you about the features, and you're like, oh, and wow, so many available. And then you say, if you have a brand preference, that's all you may just carry with you. You may want to say, I want Sony or whatever, Samsung. Else he will say, no, Sony, this is better, LG, this is better, whatever. And you are completely on a listening mode, and trying to make a decision, getting influenced by a salesperson. And on the sales side, that skill was very important, that how he influences you on what product to buy based on his commission structure, his, whatever. He may not be completely honest, and that's why sales guys were not really trusted over a period of time. Today, that it's very different. First of all, you really just don't land up at the shop or even online to figure out what is available. You do a lot of research, so you already know what is available. You know what are the features to expect. You know the price points. You know almost everything as the salesperson knows. You just go there to have a look and feel and maybe clarify a few more things. Now that makes the job of the salesperson extremely difficult. So he is there to answer your questions, which are based on the research that you've already done, and which makes it very tough for him. So if he does not have in-depth knowledge, you dismiss him as a sales, that I want to talk to somebody who knows about it or whatever. Or you challenge him, no, but this is not true. This is what I read, and this is what is the fact. So now position yourself in that position as a salesperson. Now, I'm just taking an example of a retail salesperson, but this happens in everything that is being sold. It could be consulting sales, it could be a software sales, it could be actually a consumer product sales. So the customer today is extremely knowledgeable, and so he's not depending on you to influence him to make a sale. He's depending on you to answer his questions, clarify it, and then he'll make. And he's also looking at the honesty of those answers. So that has put a pressure on the sales function in all of us to make it extremely knowledgeable leads. So you have to do your research, you have to know your subject or your product or your services very, very well, and you also need to know the competition and what's going on in the market. You also need to know what's being said online, because that's extremely high influencer today. So that is a big change in today's world for a sales function, and as a consumer you would be able to agree with that. Secondly, something which is new, say for example, say about 10 years back, while these channels existed, they were still very rudimentary. 15 years back, they didn't even exist. So e-commerce and social media are extremely important, and almost every company, no matter again what they're selling, they are present in online, and they are also present in social media like Facebook or whatever to influence their sales. So sales influence and sales itself is happening online. And you need to understand how these channels work. They're very, very different from offline experiences of days where the door-to-door sales started, and then big retails came over, and it's still very different from e-commerce. Over here, you are not really talking to a customer directly. Now, just imagine Amazon, where you and I shop a lot, and we don't really interact with any sales guy there. It's not even it's an aggregator site, so you're not talking to the sales or a company directly, and from a company side they're not talking to the function the consumers directly. So it's again a very, very different environment, and yet sometimes I wonder, in my early days, that why do you need a sales teams if you're selling through a site like Amazon or Flipkart? Because you don't have really any control. You just make a good product, put it there, and then just wait for it to sell. You really cannot talk to consumer or influence him in any way, but which is not true. There are a whole lot of army of online sales people that help companies sell in those channels. So if uh, if you are in getting into sales function, you need to understand that very, very well, because that's a very important component of a sales function in today's world. The sales through online channel for all companies may not be very high today. For some consumer product companies, apparel companies, it's very, very high. But for a lot of other companies, it's still beginning to have a presence, maybe 5%, 10%, whatever. But the fact is that they are starting to get in, and it's a matter of time that it will occupy a larger and larger share of the entire channel sales pie. So it's extremely important that you understand how to work as a sales function in an e-commerce environment, and how to have the strategies in social media to be able to influence your customers who are dealing with you online. So that again is a big change that I observed. Now, having said that, this is also a great opportunity for somebody who wants to have a job from home, or somebody who is restarting, because this is a level playing field. First of all, nobody in sales ever had this experience, so this is a new ground altogether. So whether you are from sales or not, this is a new thing for you to get into. So that has leveled the playing field. Secondly, this is a sales function, does not require you to step out of the house all day or travel. All you need is a window to the world through your laptop or desktop, whatever, or your even phone, and a phone line. That's it. You are selling to the world. So if those two are your constraint, then this is also a great level playing field to get started without any inhibition of your background or your constraints of time or ability to step out. So that way, it's a great positive as well. Third big change is need being replaced with experience. I'm not sure if it is self-explanatory, but we are in a world today that our basic needs are taken care of. So we really 90% of things we buy is not something we need, but we want to enhance our experience. And so we are, especially the middle class, being the largest section and growing. It's it's the experience. Just to give you an example of something that made a big news in the retail in let's say a couple of months back was these digital assistants like Google Home or Alexa, Amazon Echo. These are not something anybody needs, honestly, but it's a great experience to have at home, that you just call out to somebody to ask for something and you get the answers. I mean, it's not something we asked for as a consumer at all, but the technology enabled these companies to make a product which they got to the market and they're selling an experience. Airlines, they sell experience. Anybody today, any product that you are offering or your company is offering is based on the experience and not so much on the need. Because the reason why this is differentiated is that the need can be compromised on a lot of other things. Okay, even if it's not a great experience, I need it, so I buy it. But as when you're buying it only for experience and enhancing your experience, or choosing a product amongst different products or services based only on which gives you the better experience, is makes the life of a salesman very very different. Because now what we were earlier taught of sales function has changed, because now you're not creating the need and selling it, you're selling a better experience to the consumer. Now let's look at the airlines. It was a luxury to fly at least 20 years back, and then it became affordability. Okay, and now it is based on experience. Now whether you really like flying Indigo or a jet or a spice jet, you choose your airline. Apart from the pricing, which is like a couple of ₹100 difference, you also put a premium on the experience that you get. It is just about in any product or services that you take, say whether you are using Netflix or Amazon, or you're using Tata Sky or any other service. It's a lot of premium is placed on the experience apart from pricing. So as a salesman, you have to really drive a point on a great consumer experience. Otherwise, the sales is very very difficult. It won't last long. Um, Yes. Now this one again, I think all of these points, you as a customer or a consumer of various products and services today would be able to relate. And on the other side of the table, as a salesperson, for all these companies, this has a new world that they are experiencing. So opinion of the expert doesn't matter anymore. And what do I mean by that? Say you are booking a hotel. And now, hotel may employ great, hospitality or travel experts and get the reviews. You may read it, but you are likely to less believe that than go to, say, TripAdvisor and read the feedback of all the people who have stayed there, whom you don't know, they are strangers to you, and make your opinion based on those star ratings and the feedback based on those people on TripAdvisor who are complete strangers. So over a period of time, again, the influence of the online social media presence and the access to information has reduced the faith on so-called experts, and people rely on strangers because they are expected to be more honest. And you and I do that. If you have bad experience or good experience, we go and many times mention it online without any bias. So people tend to experience that or trust that more as a customer. Now, if you are a salesperson of any company or product, or for your own setup, this is extremely difficult situation for you, because sometimes customers are difficult, they are finicky, but they have a strong influence of over your next prospects. Now, earlier days, if somebody was not happy with a service or a product, they would have a fight. They would have agitated phone calls, or just go out there, make a scene, whatever. But that gets diffused in any way, whether he goes back happy or not. But the business goes on and as usual. But today, the same guy goes back and puts the feedback on online, and then it starts affecting all your future prospects. So it is become important to handle those situations. The existing customers, I would say, very very well. So sales in many ways have also become about managing expectations and experiences of your current customers very very well. uh, and if you do that, it would automatically lead to new clients, because they would become your mouthpiece, because people are all over internet sharing their experiences. I recently had a holiday in Goa, and that's all what I did. I read through the feedback of the hotel cross trip advisor, 3 pages of reviews. Not all were good, so they also give you like, okay, 80% good experiences, 20% would still be bad. And I also saw that the general manager of the hotel had replied to each and every, whether it's good feedback or also the bad feedback, explaining on what, especially in case of bad feedback, on what action they are taking to rectify the situation. You would also notice in these cases that people don't argue. The companies don't argue with the people who have put in bad feedback. They just accept and apologize and say we will improve. I have seen that almost 99% of the time, because there's no point arguing. Then it would become even more nasty. That also makes the experience of the future people very good, because they are more aware that, hey, if this is likely to happen, then it will directly affect our sales. So as a salesperson, you need to manage your customers, existing customers also very well, because they are your fellow sales colleagues in for the future customers. So you are not the only one selling, they are selling as well. Now that is something we in sales have to understand very very well. The last thing that I notice today is that the B2B and the B2C sales processes are converging. And it is why it is converging is all the 4 points that we discussed before this. Uh, because of the especially the influence of online media and the access to information, the process of selling is almost same, whether somebody is buying something for the company as a B2B, or as a consumer for themselves. The process is getting more and more similar, that there are reviews of the products, there are references. So it's pretty much the same, which means that there's opportunity for people to move across from B2B to B2C, but also follow the standard sales processes, and treat your consumer same, whether it is B2B or B2C, which was not the case before. B2B sales was very very different from B2C. In fact, if you had a B2C sales experience, then you probably not move on the other side, and vice versa. So probably over a period of time, it would totally get merged into a single role, irrespective of what you have been selling. So apart from the sales being sales as a function, and these are only the incremental changes that I have myself observed over last few years, and I see this gaining more and more importance over a period of next few years. In case you guys have questions, we will park it towards the end, and I can clarify that from my experience again. All right, so what are the new sales skill sets or toolkit that you would need? Honestly, as I was writing, it's meeting these challenges apart from the traditional skill sets. So one of the things that, as you must have kind of guessed based on my discussion in the previous slide, is that you need to have very, very good listening skills, because your customers are shouting from everywhere, whether directly to you or indirectly or through a third party medium. You need to listen, and not only in terms of managing reputation, but also in terms of improving your product or services, because we need to understand what are they wanting more. So gone are the days of monopoly, that we would supply whenever we are ready. And I worked in Apple, and Apple was that kind of an arrogant organization that we won't really bother listening to the customer, especially Steve's way of working was that the customer doesn't know what they want. That was his famous quote. But these kind of companies are very rare, because they're technology leaders. They're very very ahead in their in their thinking of what the product should be. Very few companies in history or even today are where Apple could reach very early. It's actually not there anymore. But uh, Otherwise, you need to keep listening and continuously improving your products, services, as well as your managing your reputation. Very, very important. Again, in-depth technical knowledge. I can't emphasize more on this. And I'm from my own experience of interviewing people applying for sales roles. This is the big issue. For some reason, sales as a role has acquired this persona that you can talk rubbish, and then you would be in sales. You can just talk anything, manipulate, just keep talking basically, and that's not the case anymore. Nobody has patience to listen to the rubbish. You need to talk sense, and you need to have in-depth knowledge. The processes also got divided into two things. One is a lead generator, and the other is a sales guy. So, if you do not have in-depth technical knowledge, then you are basically a lead generator where you reach out to the prospect and say that, hey, this is what my company offers, or this is what I offer as either product or services. Are you interested? And he says, yeah, I'm interested, but can you tell me more about it? And that's when you say, okay, I'll set up a call, or I'll set up a meeting with my, technical experts, or they will clarify your doubts. And I said, oh, okay. And then what you do is take down his details and set up a call, or a meeting. Now, that if you're in that role, that you're not in sales, in my opinion, you are a lead generator. You qualify that, okay, the person is interested. You don't know whether sales can happen, whether he is interested for the right thing. You're just basically a postman between him and your sales, or the technical team, as they call it, basically a product team. And then those guys get on a call and actually sell. To me, this is not really a fun role. The fun role is when you actually understand the need of your customer, and then clarify his doubts and sell. And to be able to do that, truly sales is where you need to have in-depth technical knowledge. You cannot tell your customer, I keep going back to my functional guys or the product guys, and then come back to you, clarify your doubts. One or two out of, say, 10, 12 is fine. You may not know everything, but good part of it you should be able to solve yourself. In my opinion, if somebody comes to me, or if I go to my clients, this is the approach we follow. Only then they realize that you are worth their time and money. So can't again, as we discussed, skill set does require that you have a knowledge of the modern channels like social media and e-commerce. There are a whole lot of courses available in digital marketing, online sales. Uh, it's all over. You can go to the institutes in your city. There are physical classes going on, uh, and you can also do it online in channels like Coursera, Udemy, or whatever digital vidya. I don't know, there are a whole lot of online channels as well. But you must, if you are planning to have a career in sales, must go through these courses to understand what this online media is all about. At least you would understand the theoretical aspects of it, which is very important, at least to get started. Right. So this is important. I'm sorry, I'm pressing a wrong key for some reason. Analytical skills. So you must have heard this word almost to the degree of being abused today, analytics. But basically what it means is that you need to have skills to work with data. Um, I have used the phrase here, customer is God and God isn't data, because that's what we need to do. There's so much data that is getting generated using these softwares that have been applied by every company, that as a salesman, if you're not utilizing that data, then you're playing blind. There's a whole lot of information which was not available 10 years back or 15 years back, but today, because it's available and everybody is utilizing it, you must have skills to understand what your consumer behavior is, where are who are your likely next buyers, or who is not likely to buy from you. That's also an extremely important information. If you know all these things, that would make you a really, really good skilled salesperson, because now you have a reason to your beliefs, and you're not making guesses. It's extreme because your competitors are doing, your competitor salespeople are doing, and you must do it also. So again, the way sales role has changed is not just you just pick up your bag and go out there in the market and try to sell to somebody. You need to do your homework. Whether you're doing it online or you're doing it physically, you need to do your homework with data. And that's where the newest big data analytics, business intelligence tools are in place. So you may not do all the analysis yourself. You may get fed by your analytics team or finance team or whatever is the setup, but you should have skills to at least read that data. And that's not just somebody's telling you what that this is what it is, but they'll send you the data, but you should be able to make sense of that data. You should be able to read. So for that, you should be able to know the modern terminologies of statistical analysis that are in place. Only then would you be able to make sense of the data, and also maybe perhaps question to your analysts, and also make them do few things that they may not be doing. That, hey, I want to know these this information, and maybe talk in their language. For example, if I say I need to have an RFM analysis. What is RFM analysis? Recency, frequency, and monetary value of my customers. It is a sales terminology, but you are you are making it in a analytics term that your analyst understand, and talk to him and ask him for that data that will give you ammunition to go out there and sell more. So this is, to me, extremely important. Again, a new skill set that a sales guy should have. Okay, I'm quite consistent. And the global mindset. The markets today are not geography based, at least from a company standpoint. They may demarcate it that way, but the product and services of today are being built for the global market. And especially, again, the internet has ensured that our information is out there for everybody, and we want to sell to everybody. Everybody wants to buy. You may be making things here, whether it's a physical product, it's a car, or a software. You may be making here but selling across the globe, and vice versa. So knowing a market that I understand South India very well, or I understand India very well, may be a very limited skill set that you're offering to your company. You should broaden your mindset, which is of a global scale, in terms of your market. You should have skill sets to understand the consumer behavior in different parts of the world, and see how you can grow your sales, leveraging that experience. So that is something that is becoming extremely important as well. And I think it's very important for a salesperson, any which ways, to grow and rise the ladder in sales, have a global mindset. Not many women have thought about or are positioning themselves for a sales role. It could be true. I think it's been associated with, again, men, and it's changing. Like I mentioned, internet has changed that big time. You don't really have to uh, leave your kids or family and move around and travel across, because you can do that sitting at home. And even if the role requires you to step out and do, it's still a more level playing field. But what I realize when I talk to some of the women who have applied for a sales role, even though they're not from the background or whatever, and I hear this many times, I thought of putting this over here, that I think I'll do well in sales because I love to talk. To me, that's a big negative thing to say in today's world, and I would rather have you say that that I'm a good listener. Now, I don't know, that may for some people this may be pretty different from inherent you know women's behavior. But that's not what you are selling out there. You're selling yourself as a salesperson, not because just because you're women. And you have to position what is required uh, from the function perspective, not from your what you bring on as a trait. And from whatever discussion we had till now, you should be able to appreciate that your listening skills today are more important. Whether you are selling a television or you're selling a service or a software, you need to keep your eyes and ears open and listen to what your customers are saying, rather than keep talking, which was the case several years back as a requirement of a sales guy. Yes, but I wouldn't say that you should be an introvert. You should be somebody who is confident of talking, right? That is a better word to put rather than love to talk. So because when you say you love to talk, that means you're a chatterbox, which is not something um, customers would appreciate from the sales perspective anymore. So you're confident of talking, but you're a good listener would be a better positioning. I put that as first because that's something that many people have told me, especially women. Emphasize that you have a very strong domain knowledge of whatever products or services you are getting in, or you can gain that because of blah blah your experience in the past or your educational qualification. Not only emphasize, but you also ensure before that you do have that, or you have intentions to pursue, and you have the ability to gain that knowledge because of your background. I'm just tying it back to whatever we discussed earlier. Positioning yourself as a consultative salesperson, because that's especially in a B2B role. I would say it happens in the consumer sales as well, but especially in B2B, is that you are more of a consultant, a product or a solution consultant you could become, than a salesperson, because that is what a consumer is asking. Now, just to give you my own example, I was not having a titular sales role ever in my long career, any of this company. But today I'm the sales head of my own company. I go and sell. And to be on your own, that is the first skill that you should have, that you should be able to sell. Nobody's going to come and sell it for you, at least to start with. And so I think the reason I have been successful in selling is because I followed this line of being a consultative salesperson, because it came naturally to me of not being pushy as a sales guy. I was trying to go there, understand their problem, and talking from my experience and how it should be solved, and then positioning my product. Once they are convinced that this is what can help you solve it, either my services or my product. And to me, that has helped me sell to giants like a Fortune 500 company, where I've had no background, no references, a cold call, and yet I've been able to make a sale because I went there and spoke sense, and I helped them with my experience. I emphasized and exhibited my domain knowledge. I also challenged them. That's another different thing that I observed about myself, that I didn't say yes sir or yes ma'am to everything that they were asking for. I challenged them based on my experience, that perhaps you don't need it, and this is why you don't need it. So whereas a traditional sales guy would say, yes sir, I'll go back and check with my team if they can offer you this, sure we can do this. So I really treated them as equal, that hey, look, I'm also coming from with loads of experience. I think this is, you don't need it, whether I have it or not. This is not a justification or explanation of the offering that I have, but truly honestly whether you need it. And I could prove it to them that this is the way you should be doing it. Thinking is wrong. And then if you and this is what you need. So if I and then you come to talk about your product. To me, that has helped, and to establish trust in myself and in the company, that they're dealing with some people who are knowledgeable. So whether you are on your own or you're representing anybody, um, coming across as a consultant rather than pushing a product always helps. Um, yeah, do your research. I've put this in later in the slide as well. Just don't go all out applying for any sales position. It should complement your past qualification, your past experience, and then go and apply, because then you would fit into the groove much better. um, have a great answer on why you applied for the job. And I many times struggle to get a right answer, and how will you add value? And this would come from the point before, if you have done your research well, and all the points, all 3 points before that, if you have done your research well, go and sell yourself very well, that a person himself says, yes, you should be in our company to sell, without worrying about whether you have relevant sales experience or not. But if you've done your research, you understand the domain, you understand the market, you can consult, and you are confident of talking, you should be able to position yourself very well. Regarding your break, a lot of times I see that women are very apologetic about the break that they've had because of maternity or travel or marriage or whatever. And I think that that should not be the case. You, whatever reason that you have taken the break, you could, your learning hasn't stopped as a person, and you should be very open about it. Yes, I did break from an active professional salary role, but this is what I have learned in my break. And don't take my examples here as very literally. I've just given a very light-hearted examples here, especially if you're coming from a maternity break. That I'm sure all of you who are in that situation would agree with me that you would have a better patience and persistence, and literally you can manage the crying babies, which is the case in the real world out there, especially in sales. But I mean, whatever, in a polished way. But that's your skill set, and how you, if you took a break for travel. A woman came to me who took a break for 9 months to go on a solo trip to South America. And honestly, that's the only reason I called her for interview, because I found it very, very interesting that she's left a very, very good job in a big public sector company to go on a solo break to a continent, and that to like South America. It was not like US or Europe, which is much comparatively much safer location, and spend 9 months away from home. I thought that was brilliant, and she really positioned it very, very well, how that has changed her as a person. So it could be as bizarre as that. It could be as normal as maternity break, or it could be marriage. It could be anything. I mean, a lot of you are coming back, when you say restarting your career, obviously you are coming back from a break. But it would be great if you can just summarize your learning in that period, and how even that period was useful in changing you as a person, and can add value to your second stint. So say that you are now better positioned than if you were had you continued in your your professional life doing same thing again and again. So this break has really helped you as a professional. All right, so people from non-sales background in a titular manner, like myself, uh, some uh, sharing for them that today nobody is just in sales, and everyone is in sales because everybody is talking to the customers. So really, the this is only reduced to titles. You may be called a salesperson or a non-salesperson in a company, but everybody is in sales, especially in a startup world that I belong to now. Everybody is in sales. So because you just can't say, okay, it's your job to go and sell. It's small teams. It's very, very dedicated teams. Everybody's facing the customer, and it's and their wrath. So it's basically start from the scratch. So whether you are a chartered accountant or you are anybody, a research scientist, you are in sales today than ever before in anything or any company that you're doing. Now, this especially applies to areas like consulting services, especially if you have 5 or 8 years plus experience. B2B product companies, in these cases, the domain knowledge is far more important. If you have a very strong domain knowledge, as I've been again harping upon last few slides, you will be able to sell, because that's what the customer is asking for. You won't find ever a consulting company selling somebody who has never been in a consulting role for a sales call. And even if I was, as a chartered accountant, being in, say, KPMG or PricewaterhouseCoopers, after these many years of experience, I would have sales targets. So I would have to go and increase business for the firm. So after a point in a professional setup, everybody, you would be in sales. Everybody is. So but if you are any from this background, you could definitely target specifically these companies. All you need to do is that you should be willing to talk confidently. Again, I'm not saying talk too much. You should be able to talk confidently and exhibit your domain expertise with a consultative approach. And honestly, all of you are not from so-called sales background and are thinking or have started thinking after this discussion today about sales. I would really encourage you to do that, because this is a great way to get started. Everybody's looking for salespeople because that's something that no company has enough of, and because you go and get business for the company and help them grow, easy if you can say that you can do sales for them. You're like more likely to get an opportunity. All other roles have limited, vacancies, but sales has. It also enhances your perception, your knowledge of what's going on in the world, because you're forced to learn and go out there and talk. Looking back in my career, I think I'd always tell myself that I should have for some time jumped out of my number crunching role and spent some time really on the field with my sales team, because I was always fighting with them for something or the other. But today I empathize with them when I myself doing that role. And I wish if I had spent more some time in that function by taking a switch internally, I would have performed my role today much better. I would have been better prepared, because today I'm learning from my mistakes as well. So I think it's a great place to be in, and you must try if you are reasonably confident. Um, yes, and like I spoke about some of my experience, customers like to see somebody who's not just saying yes sir or yes ma'am, not just talking about pricing, or not just pushing. Try it, take it. Your whole intention is to push through the sales. When I go, the reason I think I've been able to make a lot of sales is because of the relationship I could create, talking about not about sales, and not being pushy, and talking about their problems, and sharing my experiences on how I could add value. So that definitely is refreshing, a new change. And that's what they were expecting from salespeople all across, in many cases. So that way you would definitely have an advantage. So in case you're feeling how you would be able to perform and whether you'll be able to do it or not, I think 9 out of 10 times you would do better than the traditional sales guy, because just because you're not carrying that baggage of experience nahi hai, aise hi hota hai, rocket singh mein, that's how they've shown. uh, I'm talking about the movie. And you would just go with a approach of a consultant, and with a strong knowledge, and you'll be listening more, you'll be talking less, simply because of that of your nature. And you would mostly do very very well, I can tell you from my experience. I would really encourage you. Just taking the time here. 10 minutes to go, so I'll probably not go too much into detail. I think I overshot what I had planned to. Just a few pointers that uh, don't apply for every job out there. That's my only request, because I get loads of CVs and I wonder why this person, this lady, whoever has applied, there's no relevance of her background and what we need. It just waste of your time and the person who's reading it. Ensure that you have studied, read through the JD, and put a note that why you should be considered. You'll just quickly stand out and have a better chance of getting called. And the only other point that I would make here is that you don't stress too much if you are coming back from a break. Don't get caught with pay, because definitely yes, people would try to leverage that and say that you have a gap, so you should, we can't. And that's fine. If you really want to get started and you want a dream job, um, latch on to it if you get one, and then make up over a period of time with your performance. Talk more about your skill sets and how you can add value rather than pay, unless it's really need, and unless it's too low for your dignity. If you say that this is minimum that I would need, anything equal to or above that is fine. So don't get stuck on that point. If that is a big issue, then move on. If it is not, then talk just about the job description as well as your fitment over there. More often than not, you will make up for your lost pay. Quick points on your personal marketings. And again, this is not a universal truth. This is Rishi's truth, and this is something that I pay a lot of attention to. Is dressing up. I still want people who are coming for interviews to wear shoes and tuck in their shirts, if especially for guys, and dress up well and come. I find most women up there versus the guys, but still, I would say that uh, for an old timer like me, dressing up well still is. I think for anybody, clothes make it man is still holding true. Um, wherever you are, don't hold back your thoughts. Voice out, be polite, but voice out. Again, most people are quiet when asked questions. If you ask question or if you answer, raise your hand, shout, you would be noticed and get stood out. uh, Social media, again, as far as your personal marketing is concerned, be active, at least in one of them, especially if it's professional. LinkedIn is a great place, but don't just put in every photograph or every thing that you read across. Build your brand. In a sense, all your sharing, especially from professional front, should have some kind of a theme or background that talks about you as a professional, that this is the kind of content or this is the kind of field that you are in, if you want to leverage it for your job or for to build a brand, because then people start making a persona of you. Be active. Say yes to most offers that come to your way, just like I said yes to this uh, webinar without preparing much for it. But of course, I'm just sharing my experiences. I say yes to most things and then figure out how to do it. Make yourself volunteer. Be active in places like maybe BNI, startup groups. There are a whole lot of them, especially in places like Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, Delhi. There's a whole lot of groups that are active out there. It would help you grow as a person. It will help you get acquainted with what's going on in the world, in new technologies, new issues. It will also help you get a job, because that's where people ask for. In Bangalore's startup group is so active, people just say that this person is available and they get latched up very, very quickly. So if you are not active, you will probably have more time finding a job or a right one. And please do not make 3 or more pages resumes. That good old rule still exists, that it should not be more than 2 pages. Nobody has done enough work to go beyond 2 pages. One is even better. I have had a resume of a person with 35 years of experience with one page. It was brilliant. You should be able to sell yourself. In 1 page marketing brochure of yourself is something. If you can do that, especially in a sales job, then you can sell the product of the company as well. So I know I'm bit quite a bit overshot. We have just about 7 minutes before 1. So I would stop here and take a few questions. And in meanwhile, I would probably leave my contact details here. If anyone of you want to get in touch with me directly for whatever way I can help, I would love to. Shruti, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Rishi. That was so insightful. Rishi, I have a few questions that I have over here that were shared with me. Um, is it true that a career in sales, you'll make good money while having a flexible lifestyle?
Yes, to encourage you, yes, it is true. That is one of the perks of the function, which we in finance never had, is that, yes, because it's a commission based a variable pay package, you have certain fixed amount, but then you have commission linked sales. You could definitely make money. You also get to travel. If you are outbound open, you get to travel and stay in different places. If you are a startup, don't expect 5-star stays, especially if you are in Anamind. We stay in very in like Airbnb kind of places, but you definitely get to travel, meet different people, and have flexible lifestyle as well. If you are using an online media to sell at home, definitely you get to be in comfort of your home sofa and work. So to an extent, yes.
Super. The next question is how to build my credibility in my company and in the industry.
Well, for that, there is only one answer, and that is performance. There is no other way. You have to perform, stick to what you committed and ensure that you deliver it. And then also talk about it. That's also very important. My boss used to always tell me that you need to blow your trumpet. Which I was pretty bad in those days, but you need to talk about your work. And that's where you need to be active in these places, become a speaker, volunteer. So make yourself visible in the crowd, in your forums. If you're in auto industry, there are auto conclaves. If you are in whatever industry, there are conclaves. Go out there, at least attend as a speaker, as an attendee, as a delegate. If not, if you're getting an opportunity as a speaker, do say yes. Make yourself vulnerable on the stage, but you'll start getting noticed, and over a period of time, you would build a lot of credibility. But the main underlying thing is performance in your own company, and then you do all these things around you. Writing a blog could be another thing, to build overall credibility of yourself and make yourself famous as well.
Super, super. Thank you. Another question is, should I move into management or grow as an individual sales professional?
Uh, Actually, if you are a great sales professional, you would land up in a management role. Most companies appoint the best growing sales guy eventually as a CEO. So it's you would converge, because at the highest level, everybody in the management thinking strategy, especially the sales guy, and that's the so you are, if you are growing very strongly in your sales career, you would land up in a management role. um, Definitely, and you would be able to perform there as well, because that's the reason you're growing fast in your sales role.
Thank you, Rishi. Rishi, another significant part, section I would like to talk about is networking, which I think is um, a paramount requisite as a professional today.
Hmm.
Making time to socialize with women in other companies, particularly maybe clients and other senior women in uh, firms. This helps to build a broader base through relationships outside of the office as well. And most industries have women's organizations that foster solid business connections. I just need to know your view on that.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. You should network, because most of your growth, both in terms of your performance as well as your career, would happen from network. Uh, and because people like to refer more confidently if they have met you, have known you in outside of your work. So yes, you could leverage women's network in every industry, is that they are coming up with now. You should be part of it, and I would say step out and also join general networks, whether it's online, like you mentioned, LinkedIn, or the forums. Any of these forums which are general, which are not really women or centric as such, but you be part of everything, grow your network, and also contribute, help people. What I've seen is that you helping others as a first initiative without any expectation of give back eventually helps you getting back a lot more. So connect people. If you think two people could benefit from each other, just help them connect, or anybody can benefit from anybody. Go ahead, give references, and that these little bit of small gestures would go a long way in building a very, very strong, reliable network for you. But yes, to start with, enroll yourself in all these forums and networks that are available.
Thanks, Rishi. Rishi, also studies show that women are good at sales. In fact, they say women are better than men at sales, uh, performing them by 3%, though I personally think it's much more. Do you agree to that?
Uh, well, this is a tricky question in this forum. So honestly, I yes, if that gives you a confidence to start a career in sales, then don't question it, and take that metrics and even increase it from 5% and take a better figure from Shruti and to a larger one and go out there. But honestly, the world is becoming much more leveler, not only for women but for everybody. So it won't last long if you're not performing. Yes, you are better positioned because in many ways women tend to articulate things much better. That's what my personal experience is. So um, leverage your natural traits in that way that you could do better. but control yourself from talking too much. As I mentioned, listen more. But yes, you have definitely some advantages in terms of presentation, in terms of articulation, in terms of empathizing with the problems. That's what another trait that I've seen. So that's the reason women end up doing well, but you need to continue and perform. So it's a great statistics to give confidence and get started. But there onwards, it's a level playing field. So everybody's competing for the same pie. Get started, and definitely you have chance of doing better than others.
Thanks, Rishi. Thank you. I have to add over here that, as women in sales or in any career, we have to be leaders. As you advance in the company, you do not neglect the women behind you. You have to make sure that they have equal opportunities. And you help create a corporate climate that includes women at every level. It's not just the right thing to do, it is good business. So, Rishi, I want you to share your thoughts on that, and then we can, close this absolutely fabulous masterclass.
Yes, and I totally agree with that, Shruti. And I think most businesses are recognizing and taking conscious steps to have more and more gender diversity in their workplace. And they're making policies to ensure that women are not only having a good representation and on an overall level, but also at a functional level, so that there is a good representation at every function, at every level. So there is a huge initiative from all major companies across sectors today. And yes, that's the right thing to do. And at the same time, I would say that the women should really rise up to that offer from the corporates, and ensure that it is justified from the performance perspective. So it's a great time. The other thing is that today technology has leveled the you know the opportunities for everybody, especially for women, because a lot of roles that really required or companies preferred men to come on board because of various logistics issues that women would have gone today because of technologies, especially in terms of travel, in terms of remote areas. Uh, Look at defense services. Today women are rising, especially because of the technology playing a bigger role. You have much better representation in armed forces, which was like really a summit of where only men could go. So to a large extent, it's a combination of two things, I believe. One is the opening up of mindset, that yes, women are equally good and they should be given opportunity. And more and more corporates are, including governments, are recognizing it and opening up. The secondly, it's also helping that more and more work is done through technology rather than a physical labor, which has leveled the playing field. So you don't really have to have that constraint that I know this woman will not fit into this role or whatever because of XYZ reason. Everybody has to work on the technology. So let the better brain come in. So whoever it is. So this is a great time to be in. In many cases, I think we don't even have to fight for the right, because it's just logical, say for me as an employer, to take the best brain. If it's a woman, we should focus more on that rather than putting any barriers over there. So it's in the interest of the employers as well to have good women brains coming in. So yes, it's a great time for all of you. I think you don't have to really worry too much about these things. There's a whole lot of support.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you so much. We truly, truly are grateful for your masterclass today.
Thank you, Shruti, and thanks for the opportunity once again. And I hope it was useful to all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rishi. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a great day, all of you.
You
Bye bye.
too. Have a good weekend.